This was supposed to be a really simple stamped concrete project, but like always, it didn't turn out that way. Today I'm going to show you how we pumped 20 yards of colored concrete and stamped it with a wood plank pattern, all in one pour. I post a lot of job overview videos like this, so if you want to see more, make sure you hit the subscribe button. But for now, let's get into it. This was originally going to be about 800 square feet, but the project got changed a few times, and I think we ended up around 1,100 square feet, which is a lot to do all at one time, especially since there's drains all over this pad. It's funny how the little things are the ones that really cause the most issues. When a customer says, "Can you add a drain?" Doesn't really sound like a big deal, but it really is, because now you have a bunch of extra edges that need to be finished by hand. So the combination of the bigger patio and the extra people needed because of the drains, this simple project turned into a major project, for us at least, right in the middle of our busiest time of year. Landon had 3 of our crews on polished concrete projects, one of which was this polished concrete sticker project, which was ridiculous, but they couldn't get away to help us, so it was just me, Troy, and Corey. So I called my buddy Nick Zeppi, and he got his crew out here to help us pour it. I have learned my lesson over the years of trying to do too much stamped concrete with too little help, so I wasn't going to make that mistake today, and I have to say that these guys made it look easy. We're using a trailer pump truck today. It seems like it would be really convenient, but it's actually, I think it's a lot of extra work. I would rather just unload the truck directly into the pad, but at this house, we just couldn't get the truck to the back of the house to do that. So the concrete truck unloads directly into the trailer pump, and it pumps it out to the pad. Every time I post a video of us pouring concrete, there's always a comment about leaving the rebar sitting on the ground. For all of y'all that are about to say that,
Don't do no good on the bottom.
we are aware that it should not sit on the ground. So chill. Always think that screeding the concrete is the hardest part of any job. It's obviously physically demanding. Then on top of that, you're solely responsible for how flat the pad is. I mentioned earlier how the drains cause a lot more work. So here's Branson screeding the other side of the drain. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but it was just so much more trouble because of these drains in the floor. First thing we have to do once the concrete is screeded is run the bull float across the entire pad. This is going to push the gravel down and start to bring the cream to the top of the surface. Now that the job is mostly under control, it's time to clean up the pump truck. And this is the reason I told you I didn't love doing this, because it makes such a mess, because the hose is full of concrete. So we have to drag the hose back to the concrete truck. And then the guy running the pump truck wanted to pump all the extra concrete that was in the hopper back into the truck. So he climbed up there and we heaved the hose up there. And then I climbed up to get a video of it. And then the concrete truck driver yelled at me for being up there. It was a whole fiasco. So that's why we don't like it. But it was nice to not tear this guy's yard up, though, I have to say. So Nick and the guys are going to keep troweling this concrete, and they're going to run the edger on the edges, and they're going to get it completely smooth and ready to be stamped. We're going to use liquid release today, which is different for us. So we had to clean all of the powder release that was on our stamps off, because we didn't want that leftover powder to color the concrete as we were stamping it today.
Yep, let him, yep.
All right, let you go down. You go down first, I'm sorry.
You're good. Right there, GB.
This is our first time using the ganged wood plank stamps. We're used to using one wood plank stamp at a time, where it's just literally one board at a time. So this went really well having these big stamps to put down, because we can cover a lot of square footage at one time. But the downside is that the stamps are really heavy and they're hard to set down without them digging into the concrete as you're laying it on the concrete.
No, you're good. It'll be all right. Pitch this corner, try to pull it, dig.
What's that?
Peel that up so it doesn't dig.
Okay.
It's gonna dig in the.
We're trying. This is slippery.
Yeah.
Just release on it.
That one is.
All right, you let it flop down for it.
We still have some individual wood plank stamps because when we get to the edges, we just can't use that big stamp. So we're going to fill in the edges with the individual boards. And then once we get the stamps on the ground, we're going to make sure we tamp every single square inch of the concrete because we want the wood grain to be embedded in the entire pad. And this one in particular was tricky because as the sun moved around, the sunlight started hitting the left-hand side of the pad. So most of this pad, we're getting on it too early, but we have to do that because if we don't, the left-hand side that's in the sunlight is going to set up and get hard before we can get it imprinted. So we're having to be really careful in general out in the main area of this. We're kind of walking gingerly as we do it. We're having to be really careful as we lay the stamps down because it's so soft, but we really didn't see any other way around it because it's not like we could stamp the sunlight area first because of the way that this pattern goes. We're just being careful and moving our way down, knowing that we have a ticking clock against us because that left edge is going to get hard very soon.
It looks really good. Right on time.
We had a great time stamping this job with Nick's crew, Norm, Branson, Nick, Matthew, Jamie, and then Troy and Corey. You guys are the best in the business, and it was a ton of fun doing this with you. Once we're done stamping, we're going to let this cure over the weekend, and we'll be back on Monday to finish this up. Hey, my name is Tim Seay with Decorative Concrete of Virginia and Decorative Concrete School. If you're enjoying this video and you want to see more like it, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. So you're standing here looking at it where it was shady, it's stamped really good there. And on the edges where the sun hit through here, it's not stamped as deep. That's just kind of part of it though. Nothing we can really do about it. But the antiquing will hide that color difference. First thing we're going to do is clean up the concrete that squeezed up between the stamps when we laid them down. That's not a very difficult thing to do. You just scratch off that excess. And then once we strip the forms, we're going to cut some control joints in this to try to make the concrete crack where we want it to. And then once all of that's done, we're going to wash the pad off to get it ready to put antiquing agent on. And when we stamped this concrete the other day, we used a release agent on the stamps. And that kept the stamps from sticking to the concrete. Well, there's still a residue on the concrete from that release agent, and we need to remove that before we antique it. Antiquing agent is just a dry powder that we add to water. And you can put this on the concrete any way that you want to. I personally like to just use a brush to dump it in the bucket and just sling the water on the concrete. And that powder that we put in the water is going to float to all the low spots of the stamps. And that's what's going to show the detail of the stamps. We did this project in the hottest part of August, so we didn't have to let this dry but a couple of hours and it was ready for sealer. And we're going to roll on 2 coats of solvent-based clear sealer and this project will be finished. I've been making online courses that teach you most of the things you see on this YouTube channel. If you want more info about that, it would be the first link in the description down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.